Oh, goody.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Zombies here again, and today we're back with another Marvel Snap video. So we have a pretty big topic to cover today, and that is the controversy surrounding the recent nerf to Mobius in yesterday's patch. So this is a big one. There's a lot to dissect here. People are pretty fucking mad about it, and honestly, I can't blame them. I think this is probably one of the larger uproars I've seen in the community surrounding this game, or even people who have relentlessly defended this game and this company are like, hey, you kind of rug pulled me and I'm pretty mad about it. So what happened, and let's talk about why it happened and what it kind of means. So we got some balance updates yesterday, and one of those balance updates is Mobius. Now, Mobius is a card a lot of people were asking for a nerf on, as it was completely deleting cost reduction cards from the game, essentially. I was definitely in that camp myself. I think Mobius was printed too strong and should be adjusted. I think most of the people who are actually upset about this change would agree with this statement, that Mobius was too strong, he needed to be changed in some way. However, there's a larger issue going on here. One, they completely nuked this card from orbit. It is actually crazy to me just how quickly they nuked this card and how heavily they nuked this card, where they're probably going to have to revert it in some form, obviously less powerful, but it kind of speaks to this notion of the we'll fix it later mentality that I think has been plaguing Snap for a while. I think Snap has a huge problem where they aren't as concerned about getting things right on that first or second try because, oh, we can always just fix it later, guys. It doesn't matter if it makes the game dog shit for a week or two or a month or however long, because we can fix it later, so it's fine. And this is kind of a pervasive attitude you see in a lot of modern game development, especially with like retail games, shipping out things that are not complete, and then, hey, we'll fix it later. We want that money now. It's unfortunate, but it's a pretty common trend in the industry. What really got people mad about Mobius, though, was what they said here in the patch notes. And honestly, I think they've got to be a next level of tone deaf or clueless to actually put this in the patch notes and not understand how people are going to react to it. At best, it shows you are completely out of touch with the people playing your game, and at worst, it shows some pretty malicious and greedy intent. So what did they say about Mobius? What did they do to him? Mobius has been a massive impact on the metagame, forcing a changing of the guard among top decks that saw perennial powerhouses like Zabu, Serra, and Death fall from grace in favor of decks that could push power by just playing cards for the normal energy costs. While we were eager to see the world Mobius would create, we expected to make an adjustment down the road in order to welcome cost reduction strategies back into the sunlight. Today is that day, as we're shifting Mobius to provide a temporary counter that requires good timing to maximize the effect. Makes him trickier to set aside energy for, like Shadow King, and also opens up counters like Magic for decks that are hyper vulnerable to Mobius being played on turn 5. The last line here is really the big one, and I think what a lot of people are getting mad about. We're also interested to hear your feedback on our approach here, using a new card as a tool to create a new play environment temporarily. So the two big things here, temporarily, and the fact that they knew they were going to hit Mobius basically as soon as it came out, speak to this sense of, oh, you released this card, immediately decided you were going to totally change it because you knew it was too good, and you didn't tell anybody until a month later. Because you have to keep in mind, these patches are locked in roughly a month before they happen. So this change that they decided upon was like a week into Mobius existing. And it really shows kind of a double standard here to me. Mobius was widely heralded as one of the few things that helped reduce the absolute plague that was the Loki meta, because for whatever reason, they decided they didn't want to nerf that card anytime as quickly, even though it did finally get nerfed, even though it's still, the best deck in the game. It was before this Mobius nerf. But Mobius, they decided so much faster, hey, we're just going to nuke this from orbit, and at the same time, we're also going to nuke one of the only other cards that helps counter Loki's hand spam in Wave. So they nuked both of these cards, and now we are going right back to where we were in September. And it's kind of a joke, and a lot of people feel cheated because Marvel Snap is a game where you have to manage your resources. Unless you're spending piles and piles of money, you are not getting every card in this game. So people have to be effective with their resources. And everyone was saying, hey, you guys should buy Mobius with your tokens or spotlights. Some people even bought this very expensive bundle we see on screen for $100. And people thought they were making a good decision with their limited resources. Now, just a month later, Mobius is terrible, pretty unplayable, not going to be a used card anymore. And people are like, what the hell? I used tokens on this, and now he's trash, and the other 3K card that everyone said to avoid, Ravona, actually seems pretty reasonable. So people feel like they got rug pulled here. People feel like they bought a card with a certain expectation, and they have completely changed what this card does, while at the same time creating a very toxic regression in the metagame, returning everything to Loki. Now, they have fully admitted that, well, this Mobius change was probably a bit too harsh. If we locked it in later, it probably would have been different. And if he's really, really bad, well, and here's the second dinner mantra, we'll fix it later. Don't worry, guys. It doesn't matter if it fucks things up for a week or 2 or 3 or a month. We'll fix it later. It's cool. Just wait. Just be patient with us. If you don't like this meta, fuck you. We'll fix it later. It really speaks to a philosophy that I think they've had for a while, which is they aren't prioritizing balance in this game. And I think the Loki and Elsa seasons really demonstrate that. Their priority is making things different. They couldn't give a shit if the meta is balanced or not, because that's not what their priority is. Their priority is to make the game a different experience. And it's starting to feel incredibly artificial. Like, oh, Loki's the busted thing. Guess you have to play Loki decks or a very specific counter if you want to have a decent experience. Next month, oh, Elsa's the new busted thing. Same thing applies. September was actually really remarkable, September was actually a really remarkable month, as it did something we have not seen, I think, in the whole history of the game. Every card released that month, which, mind you, wasn't that long ago. We're on the 1st of November now, literally 2 months ago. Every card in that season release was changed. Loki, Mobius, and Alioth have all been nerfed, and Ravona has been buffed. Obviously, card games aren't going to always get things right. Balance is an important tool. This isn't an advocate for saying, hey, you should never nerf a card because it's too good. Like I said in the beginning, I think Mobius should have been nerfed. It was too easy of an auto-include and it shut down too many cards, especially for its very efficient cost and stats. But going this far to delete a card, especially when this is not a change that can be easily reverted with an OTA, this is a full patch change, so the only way you're getting a similar effect back is in another month, at the very earliest. So what this really does is it erodes a lot of consumer confidence in people spending their money or spending their resources on the game when they feel like they're just test rats for this little fun experiment Second Dinner's doing. I hope you had fun, guys, with the experiment. The collector provides no refunds, by the way, so you're stuck with this card now, even if you don't want to use it anymore because it's trash. And I really do think this just damages consumer confidence a lot. This is the type of thing that makes people question, why am I supporting this game company if they're just trying to scam me? Because that's how a lot of people feel right now, especially players with more limited resources. Season Pass only players, free-to-play players, small spenders. These are the people that are hurt the most because they don't have a million different options, because they don't have all of this new content that's releasing to the game because of this game's really terrible acquisition system, which is probably never going to change because it's a feature, not a bug. Ultimately, I think they really need to have a complete change in philosophy and how they're balancing their game, because right now they've become way too comfortable with just changing shit for the sake of changing shit and making things different regardless of whether that's a good change, a fun change, a balanced change. They're changing for the sake of change, and it all stems back to that mantra of, it's okay, we can fix it later, it doesn't matter if we get it right or close to right on the first try. And it's funny because this is not the first time we've seen them do something like this. Now, Mobius is the most extreme end of it because they completely nuked this card after selling it for a very large bundle, or even just 3K tokens is a lot. But this situation reminds me a whole lot of a few months ago when we got the nerf to Arrow in the Shuri meta. Arrow was a huge part of the game, And even though she was definitely overpowered and needed to be nerfed, they went really, really hard on the arrow nerf while leaving Shuri completely alone. That had a really, really bad effect on the game. Shuri was already a top deck, and one of its most prominent counters got essentially deleted from the game. And surprise, surprise, we had to suffer through another month or two of Shuri before they figured out, oh hey, we made a mistake here, or oh hey, we actually need to nerf the card that's the real problem, instead of nerfing around it by hitting Red Skull 18 different times. That exact situation is what's happening here with Mobius and Loki. Mobius was clearly too strong, but one of the reasons Mobius was probably made so strong is because they realized how ridiculously oppressive Loki was, and you needed to provide a way to rein in that very powerful effect. What this patch has done is it has completely removed Mobius as well as Wave, which were arguably the two main tools that were helping keep this in check. And now we're just going right back to September. Loki may cost 4, but it's still doing more busted stuff than anything else in this game by a mile. And I think the most present concern is that if they don't adjust Loki quickly after this, we're going to be stuck with this for the next 3 weeks. Because if you don't know the patch cycle timing, we're getting an OTA next week. Followed by that, it is an off week. So if they don't figure it out with Loki for next week's OTA, which, by the way, they lock in this week, so they only have a few days to look at that data and figure it out, and it sure took them longer than a few days to figure it out with Loki on the first time, well, we're going to be having at least 2 to 3 weeks of this. And that sucks. I don't know about all of you, but the Loki season was the least fun I've ever had playing this game. Mobius made it a little bit better, but still, it was not a good, healthy thing for the game. And it really shows that they are just kind of completely out of touch with what they're doing with card balance in these recent cards. And in a game where resources are so scarce, it ends up really eroding that trust players have in the people that are making the game. If you have these cards released as really, really strong, people invest their resources into them, then they get understandably nerfed because they released in states that never should have happened to begin with, and then people feel like they got the rug pulled from under them. I think a lot can be gained here by them realizing they need to have a more nuanced approach with balance. However, I don't think that's a direction they're likely to take. As previously mentioned, their priority is things being different. In a game with a limited number of cards and is only releasing so many cards in a month or in a year, they need things to artificially change the environment outside of new card releases. Because not only can people not keep up with the new card releases, but since there are only so many of those new card releases and not everyone's going to have a substantial impact on the game, they need to find another way to keep things fresh so people don't get bored. OTAs have been a big tool for this, and though they did have a fairly decent track record with it in the beginning, I think they've really lost their way with it, and they really need to reevaluate how they're releasing and changing cards, because right now I think they are doing a lot of damage to people feeling that they can safely invest in a card and actually be able to enjoy that card for an extended period of time. Now, if they do want to keep making change for the sake of change to promote different environments, I think that's something that can be fine to do, but they should not be doing this with Pool 4 and Pool 5 cards all the time, especially ones that just... If they want to shake up the environment, you have 100 different cards in Pool 3 that are much more accessible to a wider portion of the player base. Players already own these cards. If you want to experiment with making something way more powerful to change things up, or just way different, so a unused card might actually see play, you have a whole plethora of cards that are unused from Pool 3 that you can choose from. And I think this would lead to a lot less sour reactions, because players wouldn't feel like they just wasted resources on Spotlight caches, because these are cards that they already owned getting through the regular collection track. In fact, I think a huge portion of why people are so mad is specifically because this is happening to new releases, Series 4 and 5 cards that require the most resources, as opposed to cards that have been kind of not very used for months. And that also leads to the line of thinking that, well, they're doing this intentionally because they want to sell these cards, but then they have to balance the cards so they can sell more other cards. Just a pretty natural conclusion a lot of people seem to do. So yeah, in a just world, they would see this feedback and bite the bullet and say, hey, we screwed up. This is our fault. We're gonna refund you those Mobius tokens. Now, we don't live in a just world. That's not going to happen. Second Dinner has been very ironclad about refunds on cards, as I'm sure they're worried it's going to set a precedent that if it happens once, it can happen again. People have expectations, and they don't want to be handing out that currency for free. Instead, their idea is, well, if it's too bad, we'll fix it later. However, the reality is, one, they often don't get that right, and two, if they fix it later, quote unquote, in a lot of players' eyes, sometimes that never ends up happening. Arrow is one in particular that comes to mind to me, where they said, oh, we went pretty hard with this one, but if she's too bad, we'll fix it later. And then when people bring it up months later, they're like, well, actually, according to our larger statistics, the card is still pretty okay, so we're going to leave it where it is. When in reality, I think I can count the amount of people playing that card on one hand. The point of all this is that I think they're doing a lot to erode player trust in the developers doing things that are actually positive for the game in terms of balancing and releasing new cards that people actually can feel safe investing in. That's a huge problem, because as we saw in the past, under the old system, players were very hesitant to use their collector's token, because they only got 6k a month, and if you used that on a card that was bad, well, you were just kind of screwed. There wasn't really much to be done about that. You just made a poor decision, and you had to suffer with it. So that resulted in people hoarding their resources. Especially when, since series drops were a thing, players could just wait a long period of time and then eventually get those cards for free if they don't feel a immediate urge to play with them right away. This resulted in players hoarding tokens a lot, even on cards a lot of people would argue were pretty sure buys. And I think what's happening here with this erosion of confidence is going to result in a similar thing where players are going to end up hoarding more resources, because when they see a card is really, really strong on release, their mind doesn't go to, hey, I want to pick up this card, it looks strong and fun. It goes to, oh man, I don't know if I should buy this because they're going to nerf it in 2 weeks. And that is really not a good mentality you want your players having in the game, because it's just going to result in people being less interested. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. I'm curious what you think about it in the comments below. They've been getting a lot of feedback about this. I don't think they really listen to it very much. I hope they do, but I don't really see that happening. Regardless, this does not seem sustainable for the long-term health of the game, and I think they really have to reevaluate their decision-making process here, because this seems like an easy way to very much alienate a lot of people who have previously invested time and or money into your game, to feeling like, hey, this maybe isn't something I want to support as much anymore. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear it, and I'm very interested to see where things go. I think next week is going to be a very, very big week in determining how the vibe around the game is going to be for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Because if they actually decide to own up to their mistakes and nerf Loki so other decks can succeed in the wake of Mobius and Wave dying, maybe things aren't quite as bad as they are right now. But if they miss that window, we're essentially going to be losing like half of the new season to a deck and an experience that we've already had to deal with for well over a month. And even with their flawed philosophy, that doesn't even line up with this is different. It's the same shit. So I really hope they don't mess this up, but I'm not holding my breath. That's going to wrap it up for this one. If you enjoyed it, remember to like and subscribe. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.